Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday morning class that shall not be named. Sorry for the late start. I had a lot of trouble getting into Zoom this morning. I had to reboot everything to see if that worked. I finally got in, so I
Good
apologize.
morning, everybody.
Sorry again, everybody. I know we have people coming into Zoom now.
Chris.
I had trouble getting in. I could not get in to Zoom this morning, so I finally rebooted everything.
I'm gonna go off from it. I gotta get my volume up.
So welcome to people who are online with us. And I'll show the view. Sorry again, we're late. Welcome to Lou. Welcome back. Welcome to Ron and to Genevieve and to David. And I
I'll be
think
right back.
Flossie and Arlene might be there as well. Because of a late start, I think we have a few people who are not on with us. And hopefully they'll watch it on YouTube later. Hopefully everybody is doing well. We're going to have an incredible discussion today, probably the best of all time, even though we're starting a little late. We're going to talk, of course, continue to talk about Ecclesiastes. So I'm going to take a moment to reboot everything because I had to turn up the computer, turn everything on, and try to get up. But we're going to continue our talk on probably one of the two most important philosophical books in the Bible. And we talked a lot about it last week. I'm going to give everybody another minute. But last week we talked about the book that is one of my favorite books called Ecclesiastes or Kohelet. And of course, very famous for quite a few of its verses, including the famous bird song, to everything there's a season, turn, turn, turn. And we'll be talking about that. I'm going to try and get the text back up and see if I can find it. Yes, D's. Right. There we go. So we're going to get the book up and we're going to go through it again. And again, welcome to everyone. And so sorry again that I was late. But last time I was telling when I had a wedding meeting and I can't get into Zoom no matter what I do. And I'm with the coordinator and the mother, and there's like 10 people on this thing, and I know I'm going to blow this whole wedding, and it turns out Zoom was completely down, like completely down the whole thing. So everybody else, I think, was as frantic as we trying to make sure. So,
Rabbi, can I ask you a question? Rabbi?
Yeah. What's up, Ron?
Yeah. It's a little confusing about Saturday service.
Okay.
Is this going to be led by the woman that's coming?
Yeah, she's going to be doing the music along with Cantor.
And what about a regular Saturday service? That's not going to be a regular.
It's still going to be a regular Saturday service with the organ, but we'll have her playing guitar too. So it's going to be a combination of organ, cantor, and the guitar player. And then she'll do a musical program during lunch. So it's part of the Jewish community program where Congregation AA, the Federation, the JA Preschool, and Shalom School, and PJ Library and BBYO all come together for programs with this one Jewish educator. So it should be fun. It'll be very interesting. It'll be a little different, but very interesting. So when we look at Ecclesiastes, we're going to look at some different perspectives again. And as we remind each other, Judaism in many respects predates philosophy itself. I mean, we go back to maybe as far back as the 18th or 19th century BCE, certainly as far back as the 13th century BCE. Philosophy, of course, comes along in certain ways with the Greeks. But we are looking at philosophy from the perspective of the Jewish world, maybe before we had contact with the Greeks even. And Job would be one of them, which is probably a more important book than Ecclesiastes. But Ecclesiastes is a wonderful book for me because it's about this person And again, he starts off first person, then somebody else talks about him, third person, going around just looking at the world from his perspective and giving his view. And that's the whole book. And it's really a an interesting view of how this person sees the world philosophically. And in that way, it's very unique. It is not a prophet. It is not a king. It is not a famous person. It's just a guy going around making his observations. And his observations really hit us where it matters. And this type of genre is very common today. Think about anybody writing books about their lives, about how they view the world. And that's what this is about, except it's very philosophical. And he comes to many conclusions that we understand. The world can be meaningless or full of meaning. I'm going to die, so nothing matters, or does everything matter? Everything I do is vain attempt to find meaning when there is no meaning, but there is meaning. So it's a confusing take on how he sees the world, which matches how we see the world in so many ways. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of articles I said on this, but one of them really interesting that this is from Rabbi Schlesinger. He writes, "Death is a problem. It is death that seems to suck the meaning out of life," which is very much like, the idea that the only disease we can't cure is life. We're all going to die at some point, right? So it sounds very depressing. It's pessimistic that we're eventually all going to die, and all this stuff we've collected, which we adore, is going to disappear, and our names will most likely disappear. But it's also very positive because it's a discussion of how we can amass wisdom during our lives. And even though our time is limited, we can create relationships. That's the idea that we should appreciate what we have. And of course, this is one of the most Jewish beliefs he gives. Appreciate what you have now and don't look forward to the next life, which is the basis of Judaism. Meaning, do what you need to do now. The next world is coming no matter what, but don't look forward to it. Understand that what you have is important now. And that is really a positive way of looking at it, which is this gentleman who goes through the ups and downs of his philosophical view of life. There's no permanence, but yet the fact that we die and disappear is not the end of our belief system. It's not the end of how we look at the world. There is more as long as we find meaning in life today. And so wisdom is meaningful, but it's not unless it's used. Stuff is fine, but understand its limitations. We're all going to die. Life can be meaningless unless we really make it meaningful. And when you look at this, you think about philosophies of today that kind of look at this viewpoint. So we look at so many philosophers such as Buber and Kierkegaard and Nietzsche and Levinas. We'll talk a little bit about that. That look at the world and could be construed as using Ecclesiastes as the basis of their philosophy. Some call it existentialism, which right now I'm going to invite Lou to define for us.
Thanks a whole lot.
Yeah, Lou will define that for us, and then we're going to have you give a short treatise of no more than 80 pages on Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, sorry, and Buber. Maybe
Oh, good.
Levinas for fun. So I read some other articles that talked about some of the different ways of looking at the big questions of our purpose in life. And that's the basis of Ecclesiastes. What is our purpose? Why are we here? And this is not a question that is asked often in the Torah or the Bible because they tell us the whole time why we're here. This is somebody who is looking at the world saying, what is the meaning? Where we've been given the meaning over and over, and he is anxious. He could be at times depressed. He is everything my Jewish mother made me into. That is sarcasm with a little truth. So how do we address the confusion and the directionless way we look at the world? So I'm going to read it. I was reading another article. Who used a quote by a man named Albert Camus, who said there is only really one serious philosophical question, and that is suicide. Either we find meaning in life, or life is, as Kohelet says over and over, futile. And if life is futile, why try to keep living? So Kohelet is not here to depress us. He's here to tell us that we often can get depressed or have anxiety about the meaning of life and where our life is going. Because quite frankly, everybody who reaches adulthood and has full mental capacity deals with these questions. It's inevitable. We all wonder these questions from time to time. Some more, some less. Some are more capable of putting a name or a philosopher to their issues. Some are more capable of describing them or writing about them. Some of us have no way to ask questions because we just don't know how. So, as I read Kohelet, which again is Ecclesiastes, basically just means assembly or community, says that there are three ways for living well. There are three ways that we can live well. We enjoy the fruits of our labor when we are living, because they're not going to be with us when we die. We develop close relationships with other people, and we obey God. So those are the three things we're supposed to do. Enjoy the fruits of our labor while we're living, create relationships with people, and obey God's will or laws, depending. And that's how we cope with all the anxiety.
In the picture.
And that's not even bringing in the football teams that seem to really play poorly all the time. So he stressed a couple of Jewish philosophers that have a very different take on filling the void. One of them was Martin Buber, and one of them was Joseph Soloveitchik. Soloveitchik's a little easier to understand. Martin Buber, again, I know, Lou, you're very busy. After she writes the treatise on these other philosophers, is then going to get to Buber.
Yeah, that'll be next.
And that's us. And if you don't have time, we'll have Flossie.
Could you go back to a word you brought up? I'm curious, Jewish thoughts on suicide. I thought that considered you're taking a life and God didn't choose that you take it.
That is an excellent point. So this is the point that that person was trying to make. I'm not advocating for suicide, quite the opposite. He's saying, if we don't have meaning, what's the reason of living? We might as well not live anymore. It's too quick, the idea is go find meaning. That's what he's telling us. And you can look at the world as, we can look at the world and say vanity of vanities. I'm going to die and however many years, and that'll be it. I go to heaven, I go to nothing. My life's work whether I'm a doctor or a mathematician or a teacher. It's meaningless in the scale of thousands of years of human existence. What does one professor or even one great philosopher or physicist have due to humanity? Even, Einstein or even these other people, what does it matter to the overall history of humanity? And maybe if it does in these few circumstances, but what about the rest of us schlubs, the 99.99% of us? So you can look at the world from that perspective, that what we do does not matter, and that all the stuff we've collected will not be kept by our children. You think my kids want my Star Wars stuff? No, they're 5 and 7. They've made it very clear they don't like Star Wars. But that is the point, because he is basically us. He is acknowledging that we feel this way. He is basically voicing the issue we all have at some point in our lives. And so we can say meaning is found in our children, but our children will not live forever either. Well, who knows with the new science. So we have to find ways to find meaning. Fruits of labor. Today, enjoy them. Close relationships with other people and obeying the law of God. So Buber and Soloveitchik he uses, because they're both Jewish philosophers. One is one we call almost secular. One is religious. And so they look at the difference. So Soloveitchik looks at law and community. He says, this is how you find your meaning, through the law of the halakha and through your community. And that's how you find these three things. That's how you find the fruits of your labor today, relationships with people, and obeying the law. It's following the law of God and being part of the community. And it's not about just personal redemption, because in his path, it's the struggle to find meaning with God in connection to Jewish law and the people. So he's saying we have to do this through our Jewish law, whereas Buber talks more about individual relationships, the I-it and the I-thou, which is a very confusing but important idea. So I looked up where could I find a way to explain Buber's I-it and I-thou, because I'd been teaching it. I think I was a little off in how I taught, so I had to find somebody else. So I-it is a relationship that is there. It's almost obvious. So let's say our relationship with a tree. So I found this example. An I-it relationship is, I see the tree. It's got leaves and it's green and brown. I see the tree moving, with the wind it's moving. I cut through and I see the roots sucking the water. I can label this is a pine tree. I can look at it from different angles and experiences. I can look at it from math. It is this high and this wide. And that is an I-it. It's a very simple relationship. But he also believes there's another level of relationship, and that is the I-thou. And that is a relationship that is beyond definition. It is not just me simply seeing the tree. It is me having a deeper connection with the tree. It's about how this tree affects humanity in the world, but not from a direct perspective. It's about my love of what it is doing and appreciation of what it's doing. It's about how we are connected on a different level. So the I thou is usually expressed between my relationship with God, which is not as easily definable as my relationship with a person. But what Buber is saying is we have different relationships on different levels. So when Ecclesiastes says you have to appreciate your relationships today, Buber takes that to mean not just my relationship with friends and my community and how we hang out together and study together. It's our relationship on another level. It's me sitting next to David and just appreciating him as a human being, appreciating the possibility of what he will do to help the world, appreciating what he's done, understanding his needs and goals. So when Ecclesiastes says, appreciate your relationships today, Levinas is talking about, well, through the Jewish community and the way you live through the halakha and the way you keep Shabbat and the way you go out of your way to help others in need. Whereas Buber is saying relationship today means my basic relationships, my I-it relationships, but also my I-thou relationships, the way I understand humanity and appreciate human beings on an individual level. So it's really interesting. I love this article because Judaism is about community, but Buber is more modern in his viewpoint. And what we've seen in the world today is much more an ecclesiastic viewpoint. Throughout Jewish history, how did we look at ourselves as Jews? We looked at ourselves as part of the community. God speaks to the we. It is a plural. Ecclesiastes and maybe Job are the two books that talk about the individual. It's very rare in the Bible to talk about the individual. And so when we look at what's happened in the 20th century and 21st century, what has changed about our world is that we are starting to look more and more at ourselves as individuals. Throughout history, and not just Jews, but people were part of a group. You were part of the peasants or the aristocracy or the priestly clan or whatever religious leaders. You were the part of the some sort of cults or some sort of religions or some sort of business groups. It was always a we. The individual is very rarely seen except on very high levels. But then in the 20th century, starting earlier, really in the 19th century, but then in the 20th century, really after, it happened all throughout, but as time went on and America and the West became so much freer and moving from place to place became so easy, we became individuals on so many levels. So we now often think of us as myself and my family, but I look at myself as individual where that was not always the case. It's really, and so we see one philosopher, Buber, who's really taking this, and Soloveitchik, who's trying to keep us in the community. So it's a little bit, it's interesting. I hope I'm not speaking and not making any sense, which is, so often my gift. But let's go ahead and look through any questions. Let's go look through a little of this. And it's really beautifully written. And what's also great is it's understandable, even though it is philosophy. So should we continue where we've been? Should we go back through chapter 1 again or just start with chapter 2?
Leave it up to you, Rabbi.
All right. Well, we'll go through chapter 1 real quick. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king of Jerusalem, obviously refers to Solomon, because as we mentioned last week, whoever Ecclesiastes is, whoever Kohelet is, he's living in a good time, a time of prosperity, very little war. He's living in the time we all want to live, kind of like the time we live today. But yet, even though he's living in this good time, he's saying, vanity of vanities, saith the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. And remember, he is saying this not in a time of persecution, but in a time of opportunity. What profit has a man under the sun? One generation passes and another generation comes, but the earth abides forever. The sun goes up and down, the wind comes, the rivers go. All things are full of labor. Man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. The thing that hath been is that which will be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. Because, what is the famous saying? Verse 1:9, another famous saying, there is nothing new under the sun. That comes from Ecclesiastes. Yeah, he gets a lot of quotes. He's not Shakespeare because his book is short, but he's got a lot of quotes that people know, right? There's no remembrance of former things. And as I mentioned last time, what overcomes me sometimes is when I think about how many people I can name who lived in the 11th century. I can name like 3 people from the 11th century, and they are really famous. There's the Pope guy. Huh?
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. After last week's session, I looked up on the internet how many people have lived on the earth. Do you know what the number is?
I have no idea. What is it?
It was estimated based on an assumption that you're looking over the last 197,000 years. Before that, I guess people were lemurs, but it's 117 billion.
117 billion people.
That's including the people alive today. That seems like a big number.
Yeah, I'd say. And I can name 3 of them.
David, is that how many people have lived on the earth since day one?
Well, day one, I guess, what is day one? Day one by the Bible's chronology, or day one?
Are you saying the accumulation of people,
Yes.
number of all people that have ever lived?
Since
Yes.
we've been Homo
Okay.
sapiens.
Since 197,000, years ago.
Okay.
So for him, I have seen all the works that under the sun, behold, all is vanity, vexation of the spirit. What's crooked can't be made straight. I'm just giving a synopsis because we read this last week. And then verse 116, I commune with my own heart, saying, lo, I am come to great estates and have gotten more wisdom than all they have been before me in Jerusalem. Yea, my heart had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I gave my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this is all vexation of the spirit. For much wisdom is much grief, and he that increases knowledge increases sorrow. So we have the most of all of human history. Today, we have, I'm sorry, I'll go back to that. Of all of human history, today, we have accumulated the most knowledge. Until 5 seconds from now, we've accumulated the most knowledge in human history. Wait a minute, now we have accumulated the most knowledge. Wait a minute, now. So we have accumulated the most knowledge in human history, and yet, vanity of vanities. So again, it can seem depressing, but he is the everyday man. This is the everyday man guy. Are you able to see, when I put the screen on this, can you see the text, or are you seeing yourselves right now?
You can see the text.
Okay, good. I'm just playing with the screen for myself. All right, so let's go into it a little bit more. We talked a little bit about Buber. We talked a little bit about Soloveitchik. But let's talk about, kind of what he says and how we look at it. So let's go. And again, as I mentioned, I think there's only, 10 chapters, or is it 11? 12 chapters, my bad. There's 12 chapters. So, but it's fun because you can go through this and understand it, even though it's very impressive theological ideas. I said in my heart, go to now. I will prove thee mirth, therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this is also vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of mirth, what does it? I sought in my heart to give myself unto wine, yet acquainting mine heart with wisdom, and to lay hold on folly, till I might see what that good for sons of men, which they should do under heaven all the days of their lives. I made me great works. I built houses. I planted vineyards. I made gardens and orchards and planted trees in them, all kinds of fruits. I made pools of water, put them on wood. I got servants and maidens and had servants born in my house. I had great possessions, cattle that were in Jerusalem. I gathered silver and gold, the treasures of kings. I had men and women singers, the lights of men and musical instruments and all that. So I was great and increased more. All that were before me in Jerusalem, also my wisdom remained with me. So he is doing good in terms of what we think of prosperity. He's going to plays, I'm referencing today. He's going to plays and going to singers. He's got a really nice 401k. He's invested wisely. He's in Texas. He's got some ranches with lots of cattle. He's doing well. He's got people working for him. He's got, a driver that takes him everywhere. So he's doing good. According to modern society's viewpoint, this guy is a winner. And that's important for us because this may not work as much for our ancestors living in difficult times, but it still works. And we're okay. Verse 10, that's verse 1. So it's verse 9. So I was great and increased more than all that were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. So his mind was still there. And whatsoever mind desired, I kept not from them. I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all thy labor, and this was my portion, all my labor. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I labored to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of the spirit. There was no profit under the sun. And this is also a very profound definition of who he is as well. Because what we have to remember is, anybody see Wall Street, the movie?
Yeah.
Gordon Gekko, what does he say?
Greed is good. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead, Karen. You said it better than me. You do it better, Michael Douglas. Go ahead, say it.
Greed is good. Yeah.
That's better. Much better. You guys know Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer were almost using our building as offices when they were filming Ant-Man 2 here. It was between us and another church. So Michelle Pfeiffer would have had my office. Michael Douglas would have had the library. And we didn't get it. We were second. I don't know who got it. So Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Douglas would almost have been using our. But anyway, greed is good, right? This is not Ecclesiastes. When he's talking about vanity of vanities, he is not referring to himself. And this is still in the first person as Gordon Gekko. He's not saying he was doing something wrong. He is not cheating people out of money. He is not lustful. He is not using money to do things that would not be considered appropriate. He is not partying every night. This is not a bad person who finally looks, you see the stories of people who have just been gluttons. And then one day they realize their mistakes and they say it was all vanity of vanities. This is not Ecclesiastes. He is not a bad man who is misusing everything. By all apparentness, he's a good man who is very successful. And he's a good man, and he's saying it's still vain. It's all vanity of vanities. I turned my house, verse 12, I turned myself to behold wisdom and madness and folly. For what can man do that cometh after the king, even that which has been already done? Then I saw that wisdom exceeds folly as far as light exceeds darkness. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. And I myself perceived also that one event happened to them all. Then said I in my heart, as it happened to the fool, so happened to me. Why was I then more wise? Then I said in my heart, that is also vanity. So, why am I better than the fool? Why is a wise man better than a fool? Because everything is vain. For there's no remembrance of the wise man, of the fool forever, seeing that which is now in the days to come shall all be forgotten. And how dieth the wise man as the fool? So again, I'm successful, I'm doing great, but I'm going to die just like somebody who is not very successful financially or not in good health. Any thoughts from everybody? Because I don't want to depress everybody, because if there is a light, we may not get to it today. I'll make sure we get to it today.
You know, Rabbi,
Yes, Ron.
this comes to mind that if you have a good attitude, especially a good attitude toward life and people, you're going to do very well in your lifetime.
And that is what he is debating here, Ron, because I agree with you. But he is saying, what does that mean, a good attitude? And Ron, you are the best because your attitude has always been so amazing. So he's trying to go farther than that. So why do you have a good attitude, Ron? That's the question.
Because he's surrounded by us.
Right. One of the things he says, remember we talked about.
You know, I'll tell you, I developed a good attitude once I went into the military during the Korean War, and I saw how people lived, like on Okinawa, what people went through in Korea, and you know, you got to appreciate people more, and that's when I really developed my good attitude, because I was very fortunate that I was able to come home.
And that was for you. That is excellent. For him, he also adds, and that might be to enjoy the fruits of your labor when you're living. To develop close relationship with people. That's what you're talking about, right? We're going to talk about that in chapter 3 in a moment. To enjoy the fruits of labor when you're living, to have close relationship with people and to obey the law. Those are what he's dealing with, Karen.
Well, I was thinking it's kind of, how do you look at life? Do you see can you hear me?
Yeah.
Do you see the glass half empty or half full? And it's what do you focus on? I mean, do you focus on the bad things or the good things? And that to me is what attitude is. What do we choose to see in life?
And that is close, is what he's saying. And we're right there because in our mind and perspective. But he's also saying it's attitude because of other reasons, because of the relationships, because of our ability to appreciate what we have instead of concentrating on
what we don't have.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Not worry about becoming so. It's not only, it's in many ways the start to this modern philosophy we have. And I think he would agree with all of you. And it's about attitude. It's about understanding that even though everything is for nothing, in the moment it can be very important to you. that the relationships you have are going to be what's most important, that your understanding of your place in the world may be very important. All of these things, and as again, I bet the great synopsis, and I had to highlight it, you saw there, appreciate the fruits of our labor, not just meaning work, what we're doing in life. Create these relationships with people and live according to how God teaches us to live. So it's a combination of doing all of those. And so let's go into chapter 3, because that, of course, is the most famous chapter of him. I always wonder to myself, because I was born in '69, how popular was Ecclesiastes 3 before the Byrds had that song? Like, was it super popular before that? Did everybody know it?
Yeah.
It's been part of the funeral liturgy, probably in Judaism since before it, but it's amazing how pop culture can have an effect, because most people may not even know Kohelet at all, but they'll, hear to everything there's a season, and they think, oh yeah. So let's go. This is where he starts to give us some. Let's go to right before it. There's nothing better for a man than he should eat and drink. He should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. I also saw that it was from the hand of God. For who can eat or else can hasten hereunto more than I? For God gives to a man that is good in his sight wisdom and knowledge and joy. To the sinner he gives travail, to gather up and to heap up, that he may give him that is good before. This also is vanity and the vexation of spirit. So he is definitely saying, enjoy the moment. Don't enjoy the moment if you're doing something wrong, though. That's not what he's saying. So let's read. Anybody want to read chapter 3?
I'll read it.
Make it bigger, possibly.
Can I read it?
Please do.
To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be, I feel like I should sing it. A time to be, and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace.
And even the Jewish virtual library translation, what do you notice? I put 3:1 through 3:8 together in this little paragraph. I think that is because of the song.
Could be, but it says so much right there.
It does. And so it tells us there's a time for everything. And so even though vanities, which he uses over and over again, there is still meaning to be found. And that the meaning...
It makes me...
Genevieve, please.
It's a side note, but it also just now made me think of the gambler from Kenny Rogers. You got to know when to hold them, got to know when to fold them.
We're going to awesome pop culture. I think I almost know that whole song. I love that song. But yeah, again, it is about time. And again, it's always under the perspective of God. It's not a time to rob and a time to steal. So when we talked earlier about living in the moment, it is not living in the moment being a glutton. But even living the moment can be meaningless unless you find meaning, which is through relationships, understanding God. But he also goes back and he got kind of pessimistic and depressing. And then now all of a sudden we're starting to get a little bit more positive. But he's going to go back and forth why do you think he goes back and forth from pessimistic to optimistic? I mean, I know my thoughts, but why do you think he's so, and there's not like, I mean, there's subtle pattern. It's not like it's a pattern. It's just sometimes depressing, sometimes uplifting. It's back and forth. Why do you think that?
That's what life is like. Sometimes you're mourning, and sometimes you want to dance, and sometimes, you plant, and, life is like that.
And I think that's exactly right. And I think what Lou said is the reason this book got, I like to debate in myself, why were books chosen for the Bible? I know it's the holy, it's canon, but it was chosen by a group of people. There were lots of books. Obviously, the first five, probably, from Genesis all the way through Kings 2, it's a straightforward timeline.
History.
So obviously those books were probably going to be chosen, but all the others, the prophets and the other books, you're going to probably pick Isaiah, obviously Isaiah. But why were all these other books chosen? Song of Songs, controversial, Job, and some of them are very obvious, and some of them you can say to yourself, they debated this book. Song of Songs most obvious, but this one is, I think the book, along with Job, was they're later in time. Philosophy is already around. Jews have met the Greeks by the time they choose the Bible, the books of the Bible, and this I think is the book for this is the every person book. This is the book for the regular guy on the streets. We want to make sure this Bible is not highfalutin, only talking about kings. We want to make sure the later books have some ideas on what it is just to live a daily life.
It covers like all the emotions. I'm sure there are other emotions, but it covers a lot of emotions in that one.
Yeah. Sorry.
Genevieve, no, please.
Just like the song says, there's a season for everything. And just like there's a season like for winter when things decay before they come back. The cycle of emotions can be the same way. Like sometimes you have to go through that sad part to alchemize, the sad feeling so that you can use it to reborn something else in a way. Did that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And again, this is in many ways this and Job are probably the two most important philosophical books in the Bible. They're later, as time went on, and the Greeks really got in the world, and we started thinking about these questions. It became really important to have these books in there because we got to the point now in Judaism at some point, hundreds, thousands of years ago, where we said we need more meaning for everyday life beyond just the basic believe in God and be a good person. We need more. And this book in Job, Genevieve?
Oh, in that decay can become fertilizer. That's the only other thing I was thinking.
Yeah. So it helps us think. What's also great about this book and Job is they're very readable. You can read them in English and in Hebrew, and it is obviously there's a lot of metaphors and similes, but they're understandable. It's not poetic in a way that some of the other books are, which makes it very, you have to really work at it to understand. So the words you can understand, the sentences you can understand, but then it helps you think about bigger questions in the world. And so we conclude with the conclusion here on 12:13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep God's commandments, for this is the whole duty of human beings. For God shall bring every work into judgment, and with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So he kind of concludes with, that could have been added later, kind of concludes with the summation of what you're supposed to do as a good Jew. But you can take these in a lot of perspectives. And as Ron said, a good outlook. And how do you find the good outlook? When he says relationships, what does it mean, relationships? And so it really helps us kind of stretch our minds. But this is not Kierkegaard or Rosenzweig, where we can barely understand what he's saying. So any questions, Genevieve?
It's even like enjoying. So how I kind of started this, I was listening to like a self-help lady many years ago. And she would say, like, just be happy, like appreciating you have a comfy pillow. I know that sounds silly, but it's so simple in a way. It's like when you're laying at night worrying about bills and everything else, trying to just distract yourself and just appreciating that you have a comfortable pillow. But in the same, it's like it's springtime right now, like enjoying the beauty of the flowers because we know they're going to die soon before winter, you know.
And that's what this is asking us to do. And so I think it's a good way to conclude. I was bringing up a list of what do we want to do next week. And I think,
Rabbi?
Yes. And I got your text, Arlene. We're going to bring that up. I mean, Flossie.
Good. Okay. But
Flossie?
I have a question. It has nothing to do with this, but I think it's very timely. With the passing of the Pope,
Flossie,
do
would
you
you start
feel
off?
a new Pope would be?
Flossie, would you start over again?
I'm sorry. I said, sure. This is timely with the passing of the Pope. Do you think a future Pope would be more tuned in to anti-Semitism? I know the last Pope was not known as being a friend of the Jews.
Well, again, he had really good friends when he was in Argentina who were Jewish. Again, who knows what the next Pope, I think the one in Jerusalem is up on the, so we'll see. Hopefully the next one will have good relations. Ron.
Just to put my 2 cents in what she just asked, I've been watching the news and the interviews of cardinals and everything. And one of the questions were, would you want a Pope to be modernistic, or do you want a Pope to bring back what the Catholic Church was? None of them had an answer. So there's no way you can answer that question at this point about anti-Semitism with the church.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
They don't know. They won't know for what, another 9 days or something like that.
And the churches, have really opened up about their issues they've had, so they've been a lot better. I mean, obviously this Pope was more liberal than the last one, and so it probably goes back and forth. I know David is my pick.
I'm sorry. Did everybody see the movie Conclave?
Yes.
I did not see. I should watch that now.
I was going to say that's what we're going through right now, or we're about to go through.
Yeah.
And again, how do they? You can't pin it down to 9 days because it could take 3 and it could take 3 weeks. So who knows?
No, that's when they're going to pick. That's when they're going to pick another Pope.
Watch for the white smoke and the black smoke. Is that what it is?
The white smoke.
Okay.
All right, guys, excellent. So any ideas? So do we want to keep doing biblical books? We'd also talked about doing Pirkei Avot, about doing Lamentations. Flossie sent me Influential Jews, Unsung Heroines, Courageous Converts. And yeah.
Have we studied Pirkei Avot yet?
We have not. Not that at least not in a couple of years.
There's some wonderful, Pirkei Avot has so many wonderful quotes. Some of which I have hanging on the wall here, but.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
Instead of staying so much on this subject, I think if we brought in something else and then interceded that with this, I personally don't want all the books here.
Okay, so why don't we go to Pirkei Avot next week? And we can do that that's a lot. So what's Pirkei Avot? We'll talk about that next week.
Was it the wisdom of the fathers? Is that what it translates to?
It is. It's a very specific section in Nezachim, which is the damages section of the Talmud. And so we'll talk about how, because this is a section that is basically just sayings on how to live life. And that's how one of the reasons it became so popular. You've probably heard some of the sayings. So I don't want to go over, you can look up. So we'll do Pirkei Avot next week. We'll skip Lamentations. I hope everybody had a good Passover. As for upcoming classes, again, if you have any thoughts, Flossie will do some of those next, then just please send them to me. So we'll do that, and then we'll look at maybe doing unsung heroines or courageous conflict, or converts or influential Jews. Those are all good ideas. All right. Sorry again, we started late. Technology, sometimes it's amazing. It's mostly amazing. Sometimes it's a little tenuous. But appreciate all of you coming. As always,
Thank you.
we have people from, this week we only had 2 states and 2 countries. So, so thank you again to those who were on Zoom. Thank you to David and Lou and Arlene and Ron and Flossie and Karen and Genevieve and Diana and Arnold. And thank you to everybody who watched online. As for what's coming up, we have non-stop action here coming up. So this weekend is Eliana Light. The community is bringing in this musical educator. She's going to be doing something at Conservative Synagogue, the Reform Synagogue, at the Jewish Community Center, for PJ Library, at the preschool, at the Shalom Sunday School teachers. So she's going to be doing, and she's going to be at the synagogue on Saturday morning. So we're going to do something very different. So we'll have part organ regular service and part her leading through guitar. And then during lunch, she'll do some music as well. And she's also going to be doing stuff on Friday and on Sunday. So that's when we'll have her. The next weekend, May 4th, may the 4th be with you. Not only an international holiday, of course, for Star Wars fans, but is our talent show. So please join us. I think we have a lot of acts already. Should be a lot of fun. So that's going to be at 4:30. Temple's Got Talent. So please check on. Tickets can be very inexpensive. Always looking for sponsors. The next night, May 5th, is the Nehemiah Action. That is where we're all gathering. It's the big action where we're going to get with the county commissioners to ask them specifically how we think they should support mental health this year. We pick a new one. It's a conglomeration of churches and mosques and synagogues. It's an organization we helped found. And I don't want to brag about I have the best position right now. What's the best position to have in any organization?
As president.
Immediate past president.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do anything. You're just there for support. So I'm the immediate past president. That's a great organization. So that's May 5th. And then on the weekend, obviously we have the next weekend is the 10th. We have our Women of Mikveh Israel service. It's the same weekend as Mother's Day. And then the next weekend is the Shabbaton, where we go for a weekend to a campsite. It's not like actual camping. Some people can stay in the rooms. Those are actually all booked now. But you can just come for the day. And it was last year, if you came, it was beyond fun. You can come Friday night, all day Saturday, and then just come for the day or come for both days. This year we are charging a little bit because last year they gave us a great deal this year, but last year they gave it to us for free, kind of in exchange because we were using our area. So it's a fabulous place, and we had so much fun. All right, so that's what's coming up. So hope to see you at everything. In the meantime, have a great weekend. Shabbat Shalom, and we will see everybody next week on the Wednesday class that shall not be named.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thanks, Rabbi Haas. See you Saturday.
See you Saturday.